Hey guys, so in my last video I said that I would explain some of the plays and general play style of the Bubble Beat deck. That's what this video is for, and I'm just generally going to be going over the play style, some of the major combos, the OTK, and some tips and advice on how to play the Bubble Beat deck. Start off with the actual OTK of the deck, which is very simple to pull off. All you need in hand is a Stratos and a Reborn. What's also good is if you don't have a Stratos but it's in your deck, if you happen to have a Monster Reborn and an E-Call. What you do is you either search for Stratos with the E-Call, or if you already have the Stratos, then you play the Stratos, search for Bubble Man from your deck, bring it to hand, set your Monster Reborn, special summon your Bubble Man, make sure to do it in defense just in case, overlay, summon Blade Armor Ninja, use this effect to get rid of Stratos to the graveyard. Now he can attack twice. Monster Reborn your Stratos to search for another Bubble Man. Special summon him also in defense. And go into your second Blade Armor Ninja. Use this effect again, and you have two monsters that can attack twice for 2,200 damage each, and that comes up to a total of 8,800 damage. If you think your opponent might be able to stop your OTK somehow, then it might be smart to go into Excalibur instead. So, use Blade Armor's effect to discard Stratos to the graveyard. He can now attack twice. Monster Reborn your Stratos. Use Stratos' effect to search for Bubble Man. Special summon Bubble Man in defense. Overlay and summon Excalibur. Use Excalibur's effect, and now he has 4,000 attack this turn. Now, instead of having two 2,200 attack monsters on the field, you have a 2,200 attack monster and a 4,000 attack monster until the end of your opponent's turn. Also, by doing this, you have put more targets in the graveyard in case they Dark Hole or something like that and you need a Miracle Fusion. It allows you to get plays off in the future, and it sets you up for later in the game. These are both valid OTK options. The first option, I believe, is better if you know you have game because there are simply more attacks. The second option is better if you don't think you have game and you need to defend yourself. This next play is to get Shockmaster onto the field easily. If you happen to have a Bubble Man and an E-Call in hand, what you can do is you can set the E-Call, special summon the Bubble Man in defense, use the E-Call to search for Stratos, normal summon the Stratos, use his effect to search for a second Bubble Man, seize the only card in your hand, special summon him in defense, and overlay into Shockmaster. This next play is for when you have a Photon Thrasher in hand. Assuming you have no monsters on field, special summon Photon Thrasher from your hand. Then, either normal summon Stratos for his effect, Alias because he's a nice beater, and because he can be used with Gemini Spark, or Bubble Man, but Bubble Man is your absolute worst option. Assuming you summon Stratos, search for Alias, or if you already have an Alias, search for Bubble Man for your next play. Then, overlay for Utopia, if you're afraid of being attacked. Excalibur, if you're afraid of retaliation next turn. Or Blade Armor Ninja, if you just want pure damage. As I said earlier, if you have a Bubble Man and an Alias in hand, it sets you up nicely for the last play that I'm going to show you. Assuming that you have no traps or spells in hand, you've either set them or you've played them this turn, you can normal summon Alias, special summon Bubble Man, overlay for either Blade Armor, Utopia, or Excalibur based on the situation. On to general tips. This deck, even though it relies on you having an empty hand to special summon Bubble Man, is not an aggressive deck, so don't play it as an aggressive deck. It more relates to a control deck, in my opinion, or at least that's how I play it. Say you have Solemn Judgment, Dimensional Prism, Bottomless, E-Call, Bubble Man, and Alias as your first hand. The smart thing to do is simply play your Alias and set 2 traps for your first turn. Don't set all of your traps, use your E-Call, and try and go for the Bubble Man. You're overextending and your opponent is going to punish you for it. Yes, you'll probably get an Exceed off of your first turn, but if your opponent's able to counter it, you have no comeback. So play defensively in this deck. Next turn, say you've used a couple of your traps, maybe both your traps. Well, you still have your E-Call, your Bubble Man, and your Solemn Judgment. Now, if you see an opening, what you can do is set the Solemn Judgment, set the E-Call, and special the Bubble Man, now that you know that there's an opening. Overlay the Bubble Man for Blade Armor, E-Call your Stratos, normal summon your Stratos, use effect to search for your Bubble Man, special summon him,
and overlay for your OTK. Use both their effects to discard whatever materials you feel you may need for your fusions later. If you can, always discard the Stratos. And there's your OTK, with a Solemn Judgment on the field.
Another thing that you shouldn't forget while playing this deck is that it doesn't only run off Exceed summoning, and it doesn't only run off the Bubble Man when Exceed summoning. So if you've run out of Bubble Mans, you still have Photon Thrashers to pull off your Exceed summons. When you've run out of Photon Thrashers, you still have your Miracle Fusions, and you still have your Super Polys. There are 4 major ways of getting your extra deck monsters on the field. 5 if you count Starlight Road, but I don't count that as an engine at all because it's just a counter trap. But you have multiple ways to come back, so there's no need to play aggressively in this deck. Instead, play smart, maintain hand advantage, maintain field advantage, and summon things that recycle your cards, like Shining. That's why you want to go into him all the time. Try and banish your Alias or Bubble Man and a Stratos. Or sorry, your Stratos and Alias, because it has to be a hero and a light, to go into Shining. And then if he dies and goes to Graveyard, only bring the Stratos back to hand, because having Stratos and Alias in hand is going to clog your hand. Whereas if you have just the Stratos in hand, you can summon the Stratos, use this effect to search for Bubble Man, and there's your Exceed. So always keep that in mind. You have ways of recycling your monsters, and you have your super poly targets for your opponent's deck. Now, many people believe that super poly is a minus, which it is, but in this deck, that minus isn't that bad of a thing because it puts more targets in your graveyard for Miracle Fusion. So, say you have a clogged hand with like a Stratos and an Alias in it or something like that, and you don't need the Alias. Well, what you can do is you can super poly whatever you have on the field at that time to discard the Alias, so that you have your Stratos in hand to search for a Bubble Man to special summon next turn into an Exceed. Guys, thanks for watching my video. I enjoyed making this Bubble Beat deck profile and tips and advice and all that sort of fun stuff. So if you liked my video, please rate and subscribe. Perhaps leave a comment what you think of the deck. And stay tuned for more episodes.